Conceptual data modeling and the ER diagram. First, let's define what is conceptual data modeling. Conceptual data modeling is a representation of organizational data. It is a kind of data modeling and database design carried throughout the system development. Next, what is an ER diagram? An ER diagram, or entity relationship diagram, is a graphical representation of entities and their relationship in a database structure. An ER diagram may be represented using Venn diagram or a cross-fit diagram. Conceptual data modeling has a goal. The goal of conceptual data modeling is to capture as much of the meaning of the data as possible. The more details about the data that we can model, the better system we can design and build. By details, I'm talking about business rules. When we have gathered enough details about the data, this will result in a better design that is easier to maintain. Next will be degree of a relationship. Degree is the number of entity types that participate in a relationship. Remember that entity is anything about which data are to be collected and stored. An example of an entity are employee and course. There are three most common relationships: unary, binary, and ternary. Unary relationships are also called recursive relationship. Is a relationship between the instances of one entity type. An example is a person. In this example, if married to is shown as one-to-one relationship between instances of the person entity type. That is, each person may be currently married to one other person. Binary relationship is a relationship between two entity types and is the most common type of relationship encountered in data modeling. An example is like this. An employee is assigned to a parking space. There are two entity types here. One is employee and next is parking space. The third will be ternary relationship. A ternary relationship is a simultaneous relationship among instances of three entity types. An example of ternary relationship will be like this. There are three entity types in this example, namely vendor, part, and warehouse. A vendor may ship many parts to different warehouses. And now, we will discuss cardinality. Cardinality of a relationship is the number of instances of entity B that can be associated to entity A. An example is like this. Clearly, a video store may stock more than one videotape of a given movie. Minimum cardinality. Minimum cardinality of a relationship is the minimum number of instances of entity B that may be associated with each instance of entity A. Maximum cardinality of a relationship is the maximum number of instances of entity B that may be associated with each instance of entity A. Example is like this. In this example, the minimum number of videotapes available for a movie is 0, in which case we say that videotape is an optional participant in the is-back relationship. When the minimum cardinality of a relationship is 1, then we say that entity B is a mandatory participant in the relationship. In this example, the maximum cardinality is many or an unspecified number greater than 1. Another example. The zero through the line near the videotape entity means a minimum cardinality of 0, while the cross multiplication means a maximum cardinality. Next, we will discuss naming and defining relationship. First, a relationship name must be a verb phrase, such as assign to, supplies, or teaches. Use descriptive verb phrase. There are also specific guidelines for defining relationships. Explain what action is being taken and why it is important. Give examples to clarify the action. Explain optional participation. Explain the reason for any explicit maximum cardinality. Explain any restriction on participation in the relationship. Explain the extent of history that is kept in the relationship. Lastly, explain whether an entity instance can transfer participation to another relationship instance. The last topic will be associative entity. Associative entity is an entity type that associates the instances of one or more entity types and contains attributes that are peculiar to the relationship between those entity instances.